Hobbies can be fun, exciting, relaxing, therapeutic, interesting, engaging, all sorts of things. However they go about it, they must be enjoyable. That is, of course, the point of a hobby. Some activity of some nature that you enjoy doing. However, there are often quite a few aspects of any hobby that aren't always the most enjoyable, but you have to get them done to get to the good bits. This could be paying for things, although shopping can be fun in itself, sorting or organising stuff, building the things when the building process isn't the hobby itself. As a side note, this is why I'm always happy to play war games against unpainted armies, because painting is a whole different hobby from playing the game, and not everyone wants to do both. You can always paint and not play, so let people play without painting. So we know that there are parts of any hobby that you sort of have to trudge through to get to the part you really enjoy. For me, I've been in that sort of mood recently. Last year I painted a whole massive number of models, and this year I've intended to paint just a few, but being more artistic about it, and I haven't managed to do that quite as much as I'd like. So I've ended up painting a whole lot of different types of models in quite a whole lot of different types of styles, from quick and messy to quite artistic, and it's actually been quite enjoyable for myself this year. Recently I've been painting quite a few models from the Mantic Vault, which is Mantic's subscription for STL versions of their models. I have some opinions on the Vault, but I'll keep that for a later video. The models are very nice, and I have been building up a whole orc fleet for the Kings of War Armada game. Now, I've mentioned a few times that I really don't like batch painting, and this comes back to the not fun part of a hobby that you have to do to get to the fun bit. When I'm painting 100 models, I'd rather paint them one at a time than 20 at a time. I have tended to paint my bolt action infantry by the handful, and when I did my Tanith, they were mostly individual, but there were batches of maybe 3 or 5. And when it comes to the orc ships this last month, it just makes a lot of sense for me to paint all of the hulls, essentially all of the wood and metal bits of each of the ships, in one batch. And then I can separate the ships out and paint the sails individually. And this is because the hulls will all be the same across the fleet, but each ship type is getting a different colour sail. And this sucked, because I don't like batch painting, as I've mentioned, and even though these models are really nice and I actually do like the ship designs, the Smasher is my favourite, there's just a lot more to do. Lots of painting and paint and the resin bases, and eventually I'll get it done. Aside from batch painting, I've been putting off things for no good reason. These post-apocalyptic wasteland bikers that I showed off recently have been sitting around for weeks now, just waiting for some attention. You see, I accidentally printed a whole lot more bikes than I originally intended, and I don't want them to all look the same. I've used one of each of the included rider models, and I have 2 duplicates, and that's fine. To make them a little different, I swapped over the hands and I gave them heads from different kits. This is actually from the new old Cadian Command Squad that's already out of production, thanks Games Workshop. I like this one as I managed to adjust the arm to have the pistol touching the handlebar, and I've chosen to have him on a bike coming down off some rocks. And the pose fits the idea that he's pulled his pistol in excitement and now has to control the bikes coming down off the rocks, and his head is from an old Catachin kit. This one has a printed rider. The arms aren't quite right for the style I wanted, so I cut them off and found some Necromunda Escher arms. And this will look pretty cool once it's painted. I've mentioned Mantic Vault already in this video, and this rat robot is a collection of misprints that I have cobbled together for another biker. This is going to look really cool once it's painted. However, these last 3 still need a little work before I send them off to myself to get painted. And these have been sitting here for far too long, so let's sort that out. These 3 all have legs from the original Edge Miniatures set, and I've done that so that I can kitbash up the torso and arms with some different models. This first one has a Spellcrow torso with bolt action arms, but there's a gap at the back of the waist where it doesn't quite fit, and that needs gap filling. Speaking of misprints, again, this torso is from Monsieur Blackmore's recent Kickstarter, First and Unique. I have another video on the way about that set without any painting at all, just the 3D printing side of things, coming soon I hope. Blackmore's set has ball joint waists, and I cut the edge miniatures kind of legs with a flat surface, so the interface will need just a little bit of Milliput to gap fill here. Finally, the slightly more awkward one, but really cool, actually my favourite of the set. The upper half of this is mostly a Games Workshop Catachan. The head is either a bolt action American or Catachan, I'm not sure. I really wanted at least one model to have a chain. How can you have a bunch of post-apocalyptic bikers without at least one waving a chain around? I don't know. Well, that bit was easy, but the difficult part was because the Catachan torsos don't have the belt, making it quite short. And so I took a lump of hardened Milliput from a previous project, used that as janky ball joint, and that now needs to be filled in. The difficult bit is to fill out the jacket, and my sculpting skills are pretty basic. I can gap fill, I can make a little cloak, but I'm not on the level of sculpting entire models. Even something fairly basic like this seems to end up at odd proportions and with rough textures. And that means that this is good practice, and I really should be practicing my sculpting. And that is something that I do enjoy, but it also falls into the kinda feels like a chore zone for me as well. Learning some brand new thing is cool and fun and new and interesting. Practicing that thing to actually get good at it, well, that just seems like work. And so that's why these bikes have taken me so long. I love painting the bikes, I want to paint the bikers, but I just need to get this little bit of sculpting work out of the way first. And sometimes that's just it. You need to knuckle down and get the boring bits out of the way, the practice, the organisation, the getting the behind the scenes stuff sorted so that the most fun bit can come later. But sometimes isn't as interesting, which is why I haven't made specific videos on just these models, but they do need to get done. But it isn't only work that can drag, but also working stuff out. I've got a little folder of pictures of really cool paint jobs from other artists that either I want to use as inspiration or emulate quite directly. And this piece by Pusniev Inc. has been sitting on the top of that list for a while. I love this picture. This model looks great. It is, and I particularly like that it is entirely painted with environmental lighting. Nothing is painted in the colour that that part of the model would be in normal lighting, not even underneath. It is purely blue underlight and pink spotlight from above. And so I set about trying this really basic variant of it to see what I could learn, and what I learned is that it's way more difficult than I expected. This model, unsurprisingly also from Mantic's Vault, has pink base coat, purple undershot with the airbrush, purple wash and then a pink edge highlight. Really quick and messy, totally does not hold a candle to the original piece by Pusniev Inc., but it wasn't meant to. What it was meant to, and what it does, is teach me some of the directional lighting effects that they used, and an airbrush undershot won't cut it to emulate that, and a wash is just far too messy and won't fit at all. And so this project is something that I really want to come back to with a fresh model, something a little bit different perhaps, and a totally different process. For a model that I hadn't really started on, but have made a fairly nice base oddly, is this Scoripion Walker from Conflict 47. And the model itself, well, I've base coated it and that's it. But I've been trying to make some stylish bases for my Japanese models for Bolt Action and Conflict 47 that's different from my 5 other already made armies. And I set upon a fantastic idea. Tea! Yes! I'm a pommy using tea for a modelling project. Perfect. And this looks really cool as the jungle undergrowth kind of effect. I just need to add in some 3D printed plants here and there, something on each base, to sell that effect. Although also for this larger base I put in some rocks and I painted them to look like rocks. So, there are a few projects that I have been working on, but none of them are done and all of them need more work before they're done, And some of them won't even ever see kind of videos of their own projects, but some of them might. And that's okay, because sometimes you just got to put the work in. Because later on, I will have some cool ships, bikes, cyberpunk and mech models, and I'll be really glad that I sat down and did the work now. Well, I've cheered myself up and I'm now looking forward to getting some paint down on these models. So tell me, you guys at home, in the comments below, put down your current projects that you've been putting off, that you've been letting become chores in your mind. Those models that you just need to put the work in and get them done. Well, I've got some bikers to paint and some sails and a robot, and I need to find another cyberpunk model, so I'm going to get off and get some work done. You guys do the same, and until then, I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much for watching.